Welcome back to Retro Powered Gaming. This episode, we're going to briefly review Street Fighter II Special Champions Edition on the Sega Genesis. I was excited about making this episode because Street Fighter is one of the most influential and important games ever. In 1991, when Street Fighter II hit the arcades, it changed the landscape forever. Around every corner, there were copycats, but none were as good or even close. Naturally, we all wanted home ports of this iconic quarter-munching cabinet. For Super Nintendo owners, that became a reality and was nothing short of spectacular in the summer of 1992. However, Sega fans would have to wait a little over a year for our own version of this legendary title. Street Fighter II Special Champions Edition was finally released on the Sega Genesis in September 1993, and this was well worth the wait. Once again, M. Bison, or Vega, sets up the World Warrior Tournament to find the strongest to convert to his criminal organization, Shadowloo. The Sega Genesis finally had their own port, and there are notable additions added from the original. Now you can play as the bosses, M. Bison, Vega, Sagat, and Balrog. Each character now has alternate costumes. My favorite component to this game was the choice of Champions Edition or the Turbo Edition, where the gameplay speed can be drastically increased for extremely fast-paced action, increasing the already intense challenge. Depending on your preference, you can choose up to 10 speeds. Essentially, this is 2 games in 1. In addition, there are 3 different play modes, a standard versus battle, and for the ultimate in couch co-op play is the group battle mode. Essentially, this is a 6v6 elimination match. This is easily one of my favorite games on the Sega Genesis. It looks amazing, and for a home console at the time, was almost arcade perfect. The character sprites are obviously smaller than the arcade and the backgrounds are not as detailed, but to have this at home during that time was priceless. In addition, I think the music is done well, and every time I hear Guile's and Ken's theme music, it transports me back to the arcade in 1991, and for me, is priceless. When I first got this on the Sega Genesis, I spent hours and hours practicing the moves for every character, and this was one of the best gaming experiences I ever had. The only negative for Street Fighter II Champions Edition, in my opinion, is the voiceover. It's not that good, but besides that, I was extremely satisfied with this home conversion. This was the game that I was always playing throughout the fall of 1993. To optimize this experience, it is best to use the Sega Genesis 6-button controller, which is my favorite controller during the 16-bit era. The buttons are crisp and responsive, and the direction pad, or D-pad, was the best ever on any of the consoles, even to this day. I love these games, and the Street Fighter series is easily one of my favorites and most memorable video game franchises ever. The iconic characters, controls, sights, and sounds have made this a timeless classic. As always, thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it.